Everybody, bienvenue tout le monde. My name is Hugh Maynard. Ici au Québec, c'est Hugues Menard. Et bienvenue de notre lancement aujourd'hui de SEEnet. Welcome to our launch of SEEnet, which we're going to tell you all about. It's a very important event for not only those of us who are working on it, but the first thing is, it's the first time I've worn a suit in over 2 years for the time. Louis Pierre, même chose, oui. I had to go find it. I didn't know where it was. And my first job in my career was with a social enterprise. And I didn't know it was a social enterprise. Interesting, eh? And Shannon's looking at me and she goes, "What was that?" And the Quebec Farmers Advocate was a social enterprise. And so it's 35 years later, here we are launching a network for the social and solidarity economy and hoping to encourage, mobilize, prod, lead the English-speaking community into greater participation of an economic sector of which Quebec is a world leader. And I'm going to leave that to the others to give you details on. And so you have your pochette. You have your, I don't even know what the word is in English, pochette. It's the right word with the agenda, the names, the presentations. Just to let you know, we do have a broadcast on Zoom. So try to yell too loud because it'll echo in the Zoom chamber, in the webinar. Et bonjour, bienvenue à tout le monde sur le Zoom pour votre participation aujourd'hui. And after the presentations, of course, we're going to have a bit of a celebration with well, it's not a 5 à 7, a 7 à 9, with some finger food, some drinks. So without any further ado, I now would invite up Olivia Champagne, who is the Social Economy Officer for SEEnet.
Hi, everyone. I'll keep this fairly brief, just some rules about how we're going to engage with each other tonight. So we are coming out of a pandemic, and this is maybe the first in-person event a lot of us have been to. So we are encouraging you to keep your masks on as much as possible, follow government protocols. So if you're getting up, definitely mask on. If you're sitting down and you're uncomfortable, you may take them off. We are having also a networking cocktail hour afterwards. So at that point, there's going to be standing tables and you could take your mask off, but again, try to limit walking around without your mask on. So I will now pass this off to Kathy to give some opening remarks.
Can't put water there. Good evening, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Thank you for attending SEEnet's launch this evening. In the rain, I'm glad to see so many people out. Merci d'avoir assisté à l'événement de lancement de SEEnet aujourd'hui. My name is Kathy Brown. I am the Executive Director of the Regional Development Network for English-Speaking Communities of Quebec, they're known as RDN. This is not only an exciting event for RDN, this is a very historic moment in our organization's brief existence. We are a very young organization, founded just before the pandemic, late 2019, but we are growing very fast. A true reflection of the needs and the opportunities amongst English-speaking regional communities of the province of Quebec. Les régions de Québec ont, au fil des années, apporté une contribution substantielle au développement socio-économique de la province de Québec, aux pêches, foresterie, agriculture, culture and heritage, and mining. Et les communautés expression anglaise ont été présentées à chaque étape du processus. However, with all the regional communities, the macro trends of globalization, decline of the natural resource industries, and the migration of populations to urban centers, we have posed challenges that threaten the very existence of English-speaking regional communities. Decline critical mass, exacerbated by changing demographics and existing balances. RDN was founded to roll up its sleeves and tackle these challenges: demographic decline, out-migration, employability, socioeconomic stagnation, to name a few. Thanks to financial support of the Secrétariat aux relations avec les Québécois d'expression anglaise, SRQEA, RDN so far has been able to support many member organizations and their communities by enhancing their capacity that addresses the issues such as employability. Now we're taking on the new world of social solidarity economy through the establishment of SEEnet, which is a long acronym, the Social Solidarity Economy for English-Speaking Networks, which is another collaboration with the Secretariat and in partnership with our partner, Coopérative de Développement Régional de Québec, the CDRQ. Thank you, Matthew, for being here. Our aim is to facilitate the greater participation of English-speaking communities in social solidarity economy ecosystem of the province. If Quebec is going to be a world leader, we want to be there as well, not just for the English-speaking communities of Quebec, but for the entire of Quebec. As mentioned, this is an historic moment because RDN is not waiting for things to happen. We are rolling up our sleeves and we are making things happen. Please welcome our speakers. J'espère que vous apprendre des informations intéressantes pour utiliser sur la communauté régionale d'expression anglaise de Québec. I would invite you to stay with us to celebrate SEEnet launch as we move forward with the social solidarity economy and to support the development, enhancing of vitality of English-speaking Quebec. Merci beaucoup, bonne soirée. Thank you.
Sorry.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. This is my first in-person event since March 2020. It's absolutely a thrill, whether we're masked or seated in rows or not. It's still lovely. I'm going to try to watch the time, but if you could let me know if I'm going on too long, that would be great.
Chetley's.
Yeah, he said.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think we have actually the introduction of President first. Is Chetley going to be doing that?
Oh. That wasn't accepted. I just sent that to you for your information.
Oh, right.
But Chetley's going to, do you want to do that? We're rusty.
Just send her a chat.
But I'm not gonna use this.
Great, yeah.
I don't want
Yeah,
to.
just-
Okay, bonjour tout le monde. Hi, everyone. My name is Shedly Belkoja, so I'm the former principal of the School of Community and Public Affairs. I'm just a prof now, which is great. But I'm co-director of Questgrin with my colleague Brian Lewis. So really what Questgrin is, I just wanted to highlight a few things that Questgrin has been doing. And Questgrin has been, I mean, most of you know probably the Questgrin is. It's a research entity. It's a body of knowledge that was created in 2008, and it's been growing. It has been growing a lot since I mean a few years. Questgrin has it's a network, a vast network. So we have more than 60 research members from Quebec, Canada, and even outside of Canada. We have an advisory board. We have maybe you heard about the interlevel education table. So this has been also an important piece of Questgrin. But Questgrin really is a hub of research that can help in exploring also new research initiatives, new projects. We've been quite interested actually on the social economy and social and solidarity economy topic. We've been collaborating with many people who are working in this field. So I think it's important to note that Questgrin is really a body, a structure that can be very helpful, and also a structure that can help in building research partnership research. So we have a lot of knowledge and knowledge transfer, knowledge dissemination. We hold events. We hope, and I think we will hold an event on March 16 on the social and solidarity economy, a one-day event at Concordia. So we're working on this. How to engage? We have a newsletter. We have a website. So I invite people in the room to be if you have any interest in knowing more about Questgrin, and Lorraine will explain a bit also about what we have been doing. Merci beaucoup.
Okay. I was told to speak loud but slow. I can do that. So can I take this off? Otherwise I can't see. Thank you. One sec.
You can take your mask off as well.
Yeah. I have the task. I was asked to give a few facts and issues about English speaking Quebec. So as Chadley was saying, the Quebec English speaking communities research network, we provide and support research on English speaking Quebec. So it was in that capacity that I was invited here this evening. So when we say English speaking Quebec, who do we mean? We mean a minority. So depending on how you count English speakers, English speaking Quebec represents either 8.9% if we count mother tongue English speakers, or 13.7% if we refer to first official language spoken English, which means people whose mother tongue isn't necessarily English, but their first official language used is English. Any way you slice it, English-speaking Quebec is a minority, both under provincial and federal law. In terms of where English speakers may be found in Quebec, this is a map prepared by a partner organization, CHSSN, that I like very much because it shows numbers and percentages of first official language spoken Anglophones around the province. And the takeaway here is there are English speakers in every of the administrative regions of the province. Next. Now, I'm speaking to the choir in many cases here, so forgive me for those of you who know all of this. Some of you don't. So I was trying to figure out what I could say that would be of use to a varied audience. English-speaking Quebec is diverse and always has been, even when it was just people from the UK and descendants of enslaved peoples very early on. Today, English-speaking Quebec is very diverse and much more than the Francophone majority, whereas, so you have 32% of Anglophones are of immigrant origin, and 24% are visible minorities, which are much higher percentages than for the Francophone majority population. Next. English speakers are largely bilingual. As of 2016, mother tongue English reported 69% bilingualism rates, which again is more than the Francophone majority. Next. But that said, English speakers unfortunately experience discrimination. This is from a study that was done early in the 2000s. I just wanted to point out the numbers. That second line there is English speakers who have reported discrimination on race or skin color. And especially, certainly in comparison with the other two groups being considered here, by language or accent. So English speakers report experiencing linguicism or discrimination against speakers of a different language or with a different accent. I can make this available if you want to know the sources for this information. Next. English speakers have a different employment profile than Francophone majority. So you see for first official language, that larger group I mentioned, English speakers have a higher representation in professional, scientific, and technical services, as well as admin and management services, and relatively lower numbers in retail, healthcare, and social assistance. So in other words, there's a different employment profile for English speakers than for the majority. However, even given that higher, relatively higher number of people in management and admin, this is a chart showing the number of mother tongue English speakers in the population. You'll recall I mentioned it was around 8%. The blue line there is the number of English speakers in the Quebec civil service. So in other words, there's a disproportionately low number of English speakers in the Quebec civil service, despite government policy to try to counter that through encouraging English speakers to be in the civil service. So a different employment profile. Also, what a lot of people don't know, because old myths die hard, there is an issue of poverty in English-speaking communities. Historically, and this is a very fraught issue, I'd be love to talk about it later, but historically, even in the old days, the majority of English speakers, especially if you go back a century and more, were of very modest means, but there was a dominant elite among the English speakers, the 1%, so to speak. Today, or according to our latest figures, English-speaking youth have higher numbers in the living below LICO, low income cutoff, than Francophone youth. And English visible minorities have a higher rate of low income cutoff, being below the low income cutoff than non-visible minorities. But I did want to point out that there's more low income cutoff Francophones who are of visible minorities. So the portrait is complex. Next. English speakers also have a lower income overall. Qualified as low income, Anglophones are at 14% as opposed to Francophones at 10%, and the median income is lower for English speakers. Thank you. English speakers are very active in civil society. This is a bit of a very broad brush to say that COCO, that many of you know, Center for Community Organizations, a group that is in Montreal, did research and identified 800 English-speaking, bilingual, and ethnocultural community groups in 14 Quebec regions. Many of those were English-speaking. And a scholar, Cheryl Gosselin, who works in the townships, identified community groups as positive spaces negotiating language frontiers among and between Anglo-Quebecers and the French majority. So in other words, English speakers are very active in civil society. Okay. Now, I don't expect everyone to be able to read all of this, but just to let you know that Francis Ravensbergen and others at COCO, who did this study identifying all those community groups, very systematically inquired about their relationships with government, particularly the Quebec government bureaus that work with community groups. And what they found was there is a pattern of communication issues, including different ways of defining the kind of work they did that left people out of funding opportunities, limits to capacities to work in French in some cases, which obviously represented limits in working with government, but also in sector groups, and an identified lack of government acknowledgement of the distinctiveness of these groups, which tended to try to do more than the much more pointed Francophone groups serving Francophone. So overall, I didn't touch on these things, but there's been a lot of research. I turn you to the work of Richard Bourris for one, to look at how English-speaking communities experience declining vitality, vulnerable institutions, a lot of out-migration to other provinces, an aging population. Oh, that repeats that, sorry. But unfortunately, this is all of this information and this complex portrait that I've been providing is in the context of some very tough myths that exist to this day. So one is the rich Anglophone who lives in Westmount, which is true for some, but not for the vast majority of English speakers. And the best treated minority in the world. This is a trope you will hear a lot when people describe English speakers. I just pulled this one out of an old Sherbrooke record, André Tournel saying Anglophones have their institutions and their language. They are the best treated minority in the world. My point is that these are images that I think we can agree, if they were ever true, are now outdated. And yet in many cases, they are still prevailing to this day, as we've seen through issues around poverty, experience of discrimination, and so on. However, it's great to know that there are strong organizations to work on vitality. And to that, I think I don't need to explain to many in the room, our regional development network, which as far as I know has 15 organizations and growing, and Quebec Community Groups Network, which has about 44 members. So in other words, there are challenges, but there are groups meant to deal with them. And so in conclusion, this is a minority in numbers and experiences with declining vitality, complex issues not helped by prevailing public perceptions, but clearly many assets for a stronger future. Thank you. If anyone's interested, in the notes at the bottom there, I've got all my sources. So it's not me making it up, it's true.
Good evening, everybody. I'd just like to first start by thanking RDN for the invitation tonight to come present to you our social economy organization that we've created on the Magdalen Islands. CAMI is a regional association that's located on the Magdalen Islands. So we're in the middle of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. We're a pretty rural and remote region. We serve about 600 Anglophones. We have a pretty broad mandate as an organization. We work across sectors. So anything from health and social services, education, economic development, early childhood, seniors, you name it, we do it. Whatever touches the lives of the English speaking community. These are sectors that we work in. In 2018, CAMI decided to create a social enterprise organization. And this because we had started to work in commercial activities. Mostly we began with the development of a bakery service to support our museum program that we operate in the summertime. So the idea was to develop a secondary source of revenue to help support the museum program, which is not financially supported or recognized yet by the provincial government. We're working on that, but for the moment we are operating with our own independent revenues with our museum program and with some of our core funding from Canadian Heritage. So we needed to find another way to generate some revenue to help the museum program. And at the same time, we wanted to develop some employment opportunities. No, you can go back, Rachel. Some employment opportunities for the community because we are a very seasonal community. Our main source of revenue is the lobster fishing industry. So probably 85% or more of our community relies on the lobster fishery as source of income, and those who are not participating in the lobster industry or in the fishing industry are being employed by the tourism industry, which is the second largest industry in the Magdalene Islands. So the Magdalene Islands English-speaking community, however, has not been that active in tourism. We've traditionally been a fishing community, and we continue to be a fishing community. So the idea was to inspire and try to encourage the English people to be more active in the tourism industry and to capitalize on some of those opportunities. To do that, we had to separate commercial activities from Cammie's development activities. By mixing the two, we were putting Cammie at risk. Commercial business, as we know, has a risk, a certain level of risk that comes with it, and we didn't want to put that risk on our community development organization, as Cammie is the only nonprofit organization that supports the English-speaking minority in our region, other than like a few very volunteer-run organizations like the 50+ Club or the Anglican Church. So this was more, I guess, of organizational restructuring, if you will. So it was exactly that, to separate business from development. It was also to capitalize on new funding opportunities, because we know there are funding opportunities that are available for social economy organizations. And I think I mentioned the other things. Yes, I did. So now we can go on to the next one. So our mandate for the social enterprise in the beginning was to capture the economic potential from tourism. So we wanted to develop and implement plans for social economic development in the areas of agri-food and cultural tourism, in product development, all by highlighting the heritage of the English-speaking community of the Magdalene Islands. We also worked on developing and implementing a marketing strategy to increase the visibility of the community and its tourism products and services, while at the same time increasing the economic value of the community. So the development of our social enterprise was largely supported by the Secretariat responsible for relations with English-speaking Quebecers. We also had some support from our local agglomeration and also from Inuit. So the mix of these three key organizations helped us to develop social enterprise, to establish a governance model and an overall business plan. It helped us to develop a marketing plan and implement it. It helped us to create an overall brand, which we call Southside Experiences, to have one visual identity for the organization. We were able to become recognized by the Pôle d'économie sociale of Gaspésie, les Îles de la Madeleine. We were able to purchase new equipment and cover startup expenses. That was largely covered by our local agglomeration. We also, in the Magdalene Islands, we have like two communities that are where most English speakers are concentrated. So one community is called Grosse Île, and the other one is Entry Island. And Entry Island is not at all connected to the rest of the Magdalene Islands. It's only accessible by a 1-hour ferry ride. In that community, there's only about 60 people who live there. Their local school was closed in 2014 because they lacked the students to keep it open. In 2018, we became the owners of that building, and we developed a business plan to transform that building into a multifunctional tourism and community center. So it will house a museum, but it will also provide services for the community and tourism services. So it will be also another avenue for us to generate revenue for our social economy. And we were also able to, with support from the McGill graduate program, we were able to elaborate a business plan for our bakery and pickling production, because our bakery, what we do is we produce local recipes, so traditional recipes, and we also produce jams and preserves that also come from local recipes within the community. We were able to develop a lot of partnerships along the way. One of our partners in this project was Concordia University. Concordia was the, I guess, the intermediary for the funding that we received from the Secretariat. The Communauté Maritime, which is our agglomeration. Inuiv, as I mentioned, our local SADC also provided us with some funds in the startup phase. McGill University, and also other local tourism businesses and organizations. We were able to collaborate with different businesses and organizations who are already in the tourism industry within the community. So an example of a collaboration that we were able to do, we were able to produce soap with the local soap maker. So we have on the Cami site wild rose plants. And in the fall, they produce rose hips. So we were able to pick the rose hips and use the rose hips to make a puree that we took to the local soap lady who made us our own line of soap, rose hip, and buttermilk soap. The buttermilk came from the homemade butter that we make also at the bakery. So in the Magdalen Islands, anyone who's been there, we're really big on authentic tourism products and high quality products, so that we wanted to keep up with the Joneses and be as innovative and as authentic as possible as well. What are some of the plans that we're working on? As I mentioned, the Entry Island Tourism and Community Center. This is a project that's been ongoing since 2015. We began to apply for funding, I guess, in 2018-19. We thought we'd secured all the money. Then we had COVID. Then we did a call for tenders. We received one submission, found out we were $1 million short. So it kind of put the brakes on our project a bit. Since then, we've been working really hard to negotiate with our funders, our existing funders, for supplementary funding to implement this project. I'm quite confident that it's going to work out and that we'll be starting the renovation in the spring of 2022. We're on the construction entrepreneurs schedule for spring 2022, so it will have to work out. We've become a member of the Economusée Network Society. So our plans with them is to develop a culinary space for our bakery. So right now we're kind of like in a little small space within our museum. If you want to go to the next slide, Rachel. So this is the existing museum here. This is the extension that we want to build. This extension will house our new offices, as well as the culinary space, the sales counter, and a new production kitchen for the bakery. This project is right now we're in the fundraising process for this project. We're in the process of submitting applications for the funds. This is a $2.5 million project. The Entry Island project was a $1 million project, which has also become a $2.5 million project. So these are our the two big projects that we have on the go right now that are really really important to us, that we feel that will bring a lot of value to both of our communities and that will enable us to really get in the game. Next slide. We're also working to establish a daycare program for the Magdalen Islands community, the English-speaking community. Right now, we have 0 daycare services, just a small alt garderie service that's being offered by our social enterprise organization. So we have a space that the municipality lends us, and we're operating a 13-space alt garderie, and we're serving about 21 children. So we've also just a couple of weeks ago applied to the Ministère de la Famille for 21 CPE subsidized spaces. We want to open a CPE in the English-speaking community to support both the children as well as the families. If we want people to work and if we want people to stay in our communities, then we need to have the services there to keep them. And we've just been, we have in our community we call it the foster home. It used to be a seniors residence that closed also in 2014. The building's been vacant since then. It just went back to the Canadian Housing and Mortgaging Corporation not long ago. We were contacted by the Canadian Housing and Mortgaging Corporation, and they wanted to know if we wanted to buy this building from them for $50,000. And I said, well, my God, we don't have $50,000, but if you want to give it to us, we'll take it. So the guy said, well, I'll see what I can do, but if we give it to you, obviously it'll come with conditions. I said, well, if you come back with your conditions, and we'll see what we can do. So he did. He came back. He said, we'll give you the building under the condition that you develop affordable housing units. So we're in the process of negotiating the deed of sale. So hopefully in the new year, we will be the owner of that building, and we will begin work on a development plan for social housing for the community, because right now we don't have any rentals available. So this will also be a key activity for us in supporting the community. Just to mention some of the other things that we do with our social enterprise is we do a catering service now. So anybody in the community that needs a catering service, we're available to do catering. We run the Meals on Wheels program for seniors. So we're producing about 2,000 meals a year for seniors through the social economy. So this organization has become pretty important to our community, and we started off with a deficit, and we started off at probably $75,000 a year in revenues, and I think this year will probably be double that for sure with in sales. So just for the bakery service, with the alt garderie service that we're running, we're probably looking at and the catering and everything else, the Meals on Wheels, we're probably looking at $500,000 this year in revenue. So it's almost as big as Cami already, and it's only 3 years old. So that's it. That's my presentation on our social economy. I hope it inspires somebody. If anybody has any questions or would like to talk with us, just give me a call. I'd also just like to recognize the support that I received from Hugh Maynard throughout this whole process. He was a great supporter. He helped us out a lot. He helped me to think all this through to develop the strategic plan and stuff like that. So thanks a lot, Hugh. I really appreciate your help. It was fun. So one thing I did forget to mention with the growth of the social enterprise, we're beginning to do some work with Investissement Québec via their accompagnement conseil stratégique. So in January, we'll start working with an agent at Investissement Québec to use the service. And what it will do, it will give us an organizational diagnostic, they call it. So I guess the portrait of our organization that will identify weaknesses and gaps. Then they'll help us develop a plan of action to work on those gaps and address those gaps. And then eventually we're going to go back to strat planning, because we started out as a bakery, and well, now we're doing pretty much whatever needs to be done. So we need to try to manage that growth a bit. So that's kind of where we've landed in 3 years. So it doesn't take long to grow once you get going. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an amazing story, and I'm so happy to hear all the growth and success that you guys have had. It's really inspiring. So I'd like to invite Jason, Guillaume, and Maude up to the panel tables on the side here for our discussion on the experiences of Quebec's social solidarity economy, highlighting successes and challenges. So I think you'll need to turn your mics on at the end there, and Jason, there's a mic right behind you. So just to begin, if you all could introduce yourselves. Yeah, I think it should be fine. It's not a bomb.
Hello, my name is Jason Prince. I so rarely speak English. I feel very strange in a room full of English people. I'm allowed to speak in English. I've been working in the social economy for about 25 years. I work at PME Montréal Centre-Ville, which has about 40% of the social economy on the island Montreal. And I'll leave it at that.
Hi, you hear me? Yes, I'm Maud Brassard from the Chantier de l'économie sociale. We are a national network in Quebec for the promotion and development of economy social. I work in the Chantier since 10 years. And before I was working in a local center in the Eastern town near Sherbrooke. So I'm happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Guillaume. Can you guys hear me well? Yes. I studied in Ottawa, where I worked for Le REDE, which is the network for the economic development of the French communities in a minority situation in Ontario. Then I worked with Jason at PME Montréal for a while here in Montreal, but now I work for Réseau Co-op, which is a little bit like Chantier, a network, well, a federation of co-ops owned by workers. I offer my services to those co-ops to develop them, help them with their finances. I mean, it's going to be a pleasure to address you tonight.
Great, thank you so much. A wealth of knowledge, all of you guys here. So we have a couple questions, and I'll direct it to one of you, and then the rest of the panel, you guys can jump in, add your perspectives and experiences onto that. So Guillaume, first question. In your opinion, what are some of the barriers that inhibit people from utilizing collective entrepreneurship models, such as cooperatives and nonprofits?
Well, obviously, we'll probably all react, so hopefully we don't say all the same thing, but to me, it was knowledge. The knowledge of the model, because it's not even taught at university. I studied in economic development. Before I learned about co-ops, really, I was at Le REDE, then mostly at Montréal. I really learned what a co-op was then. I think it's not that it's more complicated than a normal business, it's just less talked about, and therefore we're a little bit less familiar with the names of things. We all know what a profit is. It's unclear what we're really talking about. Surpluses, is it the same as profit or not? So it's just a question, I think, of making the vocabulary a little bit more accessible, vulgarizing, I guess. I don't know how you say this in English, mais c'est vulgariser l'information. Because it's not like a secret. It's one member, one vote, one worker that gets involved in his own work and gets the value of his own work redistributed at the end of the year. There's ways that we can talk about those things, to then, yes, say the legal name for those things, but without necessarily making it a barrier to entry for people. And then from there, I think we will hear more about that. People will pick it up naturally, because a lot of people want to do social businesses now. They want to own their business but have a mission. There's already kind of structures for that. It's just the language is maybe not familiar to those people.
Yeah, it's messy, eh? Having to work with other people in collective decision making. It's messy. And when we analyze a project, first we should just make just a few facts here. So what is it? 13.5% of the PIB of Quebec is social economy. Social economy, we don't use the word social enterprise. Social economy, we've built that word for the past 25 years in Quebec. There's a law passed unanimously in Quebec back in 2013, the Loi Économie Sociale. We don't use social enterprise because that's vague, it's undefined. Social economy is very clear. And so when I was listening, so one of the things we English people have to learn, we have to learn the language. We have to learn that term, and we need to understand exactly what it is. What's fundamentally social in the social economy is the capital. The capital cannot be, is not shared it's not shared at dissolution. People don't walk away with cash in their pocket. Co-op law requires the money at dissolution to go to another co-op. And in the nonprofit part of the social economy, that's 80% of the social economy. The new social economy, I should be clear because the old co-ops are much bigger. And in the case Mouvement Desjardins is a giant, takes up about 10 or 12 billion of the, I don't know, 10 or 12, 11% of the PIBs in the Mouvement Desjardins and in the mutual. But Parfnos in the new social economy, about 80% are nonprofits. And under practice, the Relica, what's left at the solution must go to another nonprofit organization with the same mission. So one of the barriers is you work like so hard. You know, the social economy entrepreneurs work so hard, and what they built is ours. It's not theirs. It's collectively owned. So that's it's not everybody who wants to get up in the morning and do that, right? So that's a bit of a barrier. That's on too.
No, I think you resume well, and I would like to talk about the prejudice or perception that we cannot make real business in social economy, as you said, and I think it's possible. And when a project is working, the beauty is that you can decide the salary, the what you want to do with the mission, and how to redistribute as just the woman before us talk about. I think it's a really strong way to mobilize yourself and the community around a rich project in all the senses. Yeah.
Tu peux pas penser aussi, si tu veux. Merci. Et so Maud, this will be for you actually. So in your experience, what are some of the core factors necessary for a collective entrepreneurship or social economy project to succeed?
I think as we said just before, because I forgot your name, you were so good to explain how to mobilize a community around a project. And I think that's the key success to those projects. Also, as to respond to an aspiration or a need, a real need and a real aspiration. And I think that's why we see that the social economy, the viability, it's longer than regular enterprise because of that, because it's for the community, it's for a real need, a real aspiration. So that explains a little bit, a lot about social economy, even if it's hard and it's a lot of work to start. I think the success is about the mobilization.
La mobilisation, for sure. Puis, in the sense that it has to be by the people, for the people. So I think one of the key factors is to make it clear for the individuals who are getting involved, because it's all about individuals at the end of it. We're building this because we want to help our communities, and therefore the individuals that are in this community, it's not going to do it itself. It's going to do it with the work of the people that are getting involved. So maybe they're volunteering, maybe they're working, but they're working way harder than the number of hours that they should be working for or paid for. Maybe they're accepting a little bit less of a salary that they would be making in the private. What's in it for them? We can't just be asking people to give to those organizations. Those organizations have to be in a position that they're giving back to the people that contribute to them. We already said it, that the money is going nowhere. So we should not be afraid of giving our time to those organizations. It's going to be there as a legacy for sure. Nobody is going to fill his pocket with my volunteering time. But at the same time, just volunteering for volunteering, then I'm on call, then I wake up in the middle of the night. I can never have children or take a vacation. There's all this organization is on my shoulder. It's fair to ask that for 1, 2 people. We have to be together in this to know why people are getting involved. So putting that on the table right away. It doesn't have to be the same for everyone. One of them might be wanting to work there. He just wants to be able to make a living. The other people want to be able to do their groceries. So they just want to have groceries available. They're willing to pay a little bit of an overprice so that the person makes a good salary. Nobody has the same interest, but I think together we can find common interests, if that makes sense. The second
question. Sorry, I was about to speak in French. Oh my goodness. I've never said this in English, so what I'm about to say might sound strange. So at PME Montréal Centre-Ville, we look for 4 kinds of competencies in the group promoteur. We need to do an English Montreal dictionary, I think. So we need the entrepreneur, right? The person well, first of all, we need the person who can produce the service or the good. The capacity to make the thing is the first thing we're looking for. We need the entrepreneur who can sell that thing, can be present in the networks, be visible, the kind of the porte-parole, the charisma, the person with a lot of charisma, the front door maybe. We need the administrator, the person who's obsessed with the details, who knows exactly how much money is in the bank today, how much is going to come out in the next 2 weeks, and and has everybody, exactly where they find the minutes, they can find the decision that we made back, that that policy decision, they can find it. They're obsessed with detail. And the 4th competency we look for is we call the integrator, the diplomat, the person who can solve the conflicts in the group, the one who can resolve those problems when they arise. Now those 4 competencies don't have to be in 4 different people, but if they're all in one person, then it's not a social, it's not a collective enterprise. So we look for groups, and we look for complementarity in the core group, we say. And we need these 4, we look for these 4 competencies. And if we don't have them, the project's not going to float. It's not going to float. And so we work with the groups until, and we fill in, we try to fill in the gaps, and we try and make sure these 4 core competencies are there. And when they're there, when you've got a kick-ass group, then as they say, in a failing market, a kick-ass group is going to succeed. And if you've got a crappy core group and a fantastic market, they're going to fail. So that's the most important thing. You've got to have a really good core group that can work together. And then with any luck, throw some money at them, it'll work. There are other factors, of course. There are other factors, but for me, that's a really important one for us in our practice at PME Montréal Centre-Ville. That's central.
Wow, thanks for laying that out so simply. Only 4 factors. This kind of leads into the next question, which I'll direct at you, Jason. So can you describe a time when a project failed despite having all these core factors and resources? And in your opinion, what was the main cause of the project not succeeding?
So I've seen failures, and they often happen when a core person leaves. I remember one time there was before LUPA in NDG, there was a community organization proposed a greenhouse on top of a public school at a time when several $1 billion have been announced to renovate schools across the province. And they had gone all the way through the stage. And they were going to make microgreens. Before there were microgreens in everywhere, these cats were proposing microgreens on top of a school in NDG, and they got to the part where they were getting approval from the borough planners. The capital budget tripled because they moved from polycarbonate to glass. Stupid urban planners. I'm a planner, so I can say stupid urban planners. Yeah. And then the main driver who wrote the business plan got pregnant, and she left. And the guy who had been piloting the whole thing got a job at Equita inside of like 3 or 4 weeks. So the project collapsed. And even 6 months later, there was no trace of a memory of that project in NDG because all the people in the community organization, the leadership had all changed. So all that stuff was in a file somewhere. It just completely disappeared. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little story.
I love your story, Jason.
Terrible things happen sometimes.
I love your story because it's a good example for exactly what I was going to say. The first thing is Jay just said it. So you need somebody to resolve the conflict in your organization if you're going to believe in that organization, right? So conflict is one of the reasons people leave. When I saw that question, I wrote to myself, projects don't fail, it's just people move on. In the social economy sector, you said it, Jason, that whole project is in a file somewhere. It doesn't belong to anybody. Nobody is on the Cayman Islands just chilling with that study. Like, no, it still belongs to the community. It's just the leaders have moved on. Life is fast. We saw the pandemic happen all of a sudden. That changed a lot of career. I'm sure a lot of you guys are now in organizations where there's new people that came, you never thought they would be here, or you thought of leaving because life has changed and maybe new challenges, new things. In social economy, Jason said it, the things are not owned by anyone. So they belong to the NGO or they belong to the co-op, but nobody can just like leave with them. Jason was like, if you have a good group, just throw money at them. But that's, if you're a funder, that's something that could be a strategy because that money is never leaving your community. Once in a co-op in your community, it's going to stay in a co-op, well, maybe in another town because your co-op had to close doors for a while. But I don't know. They're experiment projects too. So we're trying to build something different. Some are gonna, fail, but really they're just on the ice until a new leader comes along. He picks that project up, flips it around, finds it a new solution. Maybe there's a different market now. Maybe we can do it online. It's less costly. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But it never is gone. Does that make sense, Jason? Is that true? You have more experience than me, maybe you know. But
once they get going and there's momentum, this one failed before it started. Once they get going and they're going concern, then the best ones you figured out that it's not all dependent on this DG. That there's enough people around the project that if that person, that key person, sometimes there is a key person, if that person leaves, there's enough momentum to replace that person. Sometimes the board has to go into management for 6 months and it's messy, and that's what happens. Until they find the person to take the project forward, that does happen.
I would like to add that maybe as a network, we have to work with the state of Quebec and the municipality to co-build public policy and tools, financial tools to help the promoters to succeed to their project, because we see a new generation now that is interested by social economy, but in new fields like environment and technologies. So I think our work is to facilitate their life and with public policies, network, and tools like financial tools. So maybe it was I wanted to add.
A bit of information. I'm going to proudly say that Montréal Centre-Ville did a study on all the social economy projects financed from the beginning of the SEDEC, going back all the way to the beginning to 1998, 99 to 2016, and the survival rate was over 75%. And with the private companies, which was at about 61%. So and also we had done a study in the study. We studied how much had been kicked back to the government in taxes. So way more went back to the government in taxes than had been paid out in subsidies. So it's a very nice study. I invite you to ask me, and I'll send you the link.
Thank you for that. And I guess to build off your point, Maude, I'll also ask you a question. So what sectors of the economy do you think it's possible to make the most gains for the advancement of the social solidarity economy?
We have a lot of people here that maybe know the answer. I think the new challenge of our society and with the pandemic, I think it brought a lot of things. If we think about this, the healthcare of seniors people, it's a big issue. Environment, it's a big crisis, and we have to resolve it. Maybe also by social economy, because social economy would think about his community and will not think about making just profit. and don't think about the environment. So I think all the environment signers and also property. So ownership matters, and I think that our land, our building, who needs to be in the community can be taken by the community to make more projects and to resolve a lot of our challenges. Yeah.
My comment comes really from my co-op world, my worker co-op world, but everything should be a worker-owned co-op in my point of view. It's just a little too late for some things, but the factory that got delocated, people that lost their job, well, you don't delocate your own working co-op. What creates value in a business? Well, the workers are part of that value for sure. In Quebec right now, there's a lot of businesses that have been built by baby boomers that want to retire. Like, I want them to be able to retire. They deserve it. They built an amazing economic fabric. Not a lot of people are ready to like take them back. It's difficult to take those projects on your shoulder by yourself. So I would say maybe everything should be a worker-owned co-op. If you're a worker somewhere, you feel like your work is valuable in your business, well, you're probably bringing a lot of the value to your business by working there. You have other colleagues. Why don't you buy back your business? Now you own it, or projects like this. So when you think about it, maybe the Montreal Hockey Canadian Club should be a worker-owned co-op. I'm not going to see Bergevin or Monsieur Molson. I'm paying to see the workers. The workers are the players. Maybe they should own their own work. So there's no problem with making money. It's your own work. So everywhere, own your own work, people. That's my take on this.
That was the music for that great song.
Maybe that was his boss calling him, hey, you should go back to the office.
We have a table of 7 emerging trends that we gave to our boss that I didn't bring with me, so I can't remember. But I'll say this: the new wave of social economy starts in 1998 after the summit and the CLD was rolled out. In the first, say, 10 years, most of the social economy was coming from stuff that was being shed by the government. However, in the last 10 years, much more of the social economy is going into what was traditionally the private sector. So definitely professional services. There's all kinds of innovation in places where the private sector was playing. And I think that's where the social economy is going actually right now. We've seen engineers, architects, urban planners all setting up co-ops and nonprofits and taking larger parts of the market, and they're growing fast. We've seen them in co-ops in the public sector, public works, renovation of buildings. There's wholesale, the consortium of nonprofit housing owners and developers who are targeting building 5,000 units of social housing in the next 5-10 years. So, I mean, there's an amazing synergy. We're talking about consortium in the social economy. And we're not just talking, we're doing. It's happening.
Yeah, I think I'm going to actually skip ahead to my next question, actually, because it leads in so well. And I'll pose this to everyone on the panel here. So in your opinion and experience, what resources and connections could be strengthened to accelerate the participation of Quebecers in the social solidarity economy?
I teach the social economy at the School of Community and Public Affairs, and I've been doing it for about the past 15 years. So I wear 2 hats, actually. And I tell my students, I said, don't forget everything I taught you in the classroom, but don't forget this. It's all about the network. Just remember that word, network. And so what we do, in fact, at PME is we network all the social economy groups. We get them together and we get them networking with each other. We don't get them networking with the private sector. We get them networking with each other because that's how you're going to accelerate it. So, yeah, that's the, so if you forget everything you learned tonight, don't forget that. Network.
Yeah, I would like to talk to the people here from Concordia. I think what Concordia is doing since of here is really nice and to help the social economy. And I think university in Quebec can do more about the local development and the vision of local development and what the role of the universities in that local development. So I think you should see the university as a big partner in the local development, social economy, and also with the Chantier, we work a partnership with the Secrétariat à la Jeunesse and the university to engage young people in social economy. The program is called SEEnet. And yeah, network is important. I think we have here the people from the CDRQ, and but my wish is that the universities make a bigger role in Quebec in that, and we see it in other countries, and I think it's possible. So yeah.
I would say, Pete, it's weird because we're all around the table here. We're already equipped. There's networks, people, incubator, knowledge, that can just be shared, leveraged. We can scale it up to more people. It's already there. But I think it comes back to what Jason said at the beginning about what's kind of difficult about those projects is that nobody's going to live on a yacht with a social economy project, right? It's not like what's in it for me that much. That people are taking a lot of risk. Maybe they're spending their best years of youth and energy on a social project that's going to belong to the community forever. So I guess I'm speaking more to the community deciders to take in consequence that maybe that you could provide a little bit of this space. Hey, I have a kitchen in my school that I'm not using all the time. Maybe somebody could use that kitchen to do a social economy project without them having to equip themselves with kitchen equipment, which is a big risk. You'll have to change them in 5 years. What if the money just doesn't work, the fridge breaks? So I feel like there's a lot of risks that are on the shoulder of the people that are like shouldering those projects, that sharing that risk with the community, and that could be a way of helping. So whatever your role in the community is, if you want to take a little bit of the risk, I know that in co-ops, you can have shares in your co-op if you want to, so you can invest with your co-op instead of investing somewhere else. There's different way that you can do that in other NGOs as well. So even as an individual, you can, what's a community bond, Jason? Is that it? The community bond as a citizen, as an organization, it's not only subsidies, sometimes it's contract. Can you see if there's a co-op or an NGO in your sector that offers the service that you're looking to buy from? That money is going to stay with them. So yeah, seeing it more as something that we have to do as a community, not just the people that are in charge of the project necessarily.
Maybe it's just a plug for community bonds. In the past, although it's been legal since the beginning of time, since we had since nonprofit part 3 of the Companies Act was in place, very rarely was the community bond used. So that's it's like a promissory note. Nonprofits can issue those, and they're not subject to AMF regulation, the Securities and Exchange Commission, if they're done properly. And over the past, say, 5 years, we've seen a piloting now, very energetic efforts to try and get this form of financing out. So, and the hat trick, the great hat trick will be if we can get them also RRSP eligible. So, attachons nos trucs, as they say. If we can do that, then we'll have an opportunity for investors to move just a small part of their retirement fund directly into a project in their neighborhood that they can touch. The best community bonds will be real estate backed, but you might also find bond issues that are attached to renovations or sometimes even to the mission. I think we should be prudent on how we go forward with the community bonds, and I think we should be able to cash them out and reinvest and refund those investors. I'm very prudent on that, but it's up to you to decide how you want to invest your money. But keep your eyes out for community bond issues and consider them.
Great, yeah, thank you also for highlighting the importance of solidarity networks and connections. And just to kind of leave us on a high note here, although we've touched on this a little bit already, again, I'll pose it to everyone at the table. So can you describe a time where a project succeeded in long-term growth and has become a key pillar of the community? And in your opinion, what are some of the core factors that led to its success?
Right?
The obvious answer.
In 1900, French people can't get money from the Anglos, those 1% of those Anglos, and so they created their own banking network. Now, isn't that awesome? I mean, it's a great success story, and it's the center of the social economy. And the Caisse d'économie solidaire is a fundamental player in the social economy. Almost all of the money that they gather from the people bank with them is plugged into the social economy. So you should bank there if you want to support the social economy.
Wait, like Jason said, there's huge successes. In Spain, there's a huge co-op that's a success. Like now they have their feet and toes and fingers and everything in the region of Spain. A lot of people work for them. People even forget that they work for a co-op. They just like complain about like their work like regular people. So the small projects are also impressive. Even the ones that are like run by volunteers. I have in my head a grocery store that I think it has 2 employees, 300 members. People show up for like shifts of 1 hour to come. They're really just people wait so that they're excited. Yes, next Friday I get to go do the cash at my grocery store. Like communities get the success story we just saw right before the panel was also like I'm emotional. Like wow, it's just people getting together. They can do great things. It's really surprising.
To Hannah, I would like to mention those 2 projects. The first one is it's not really sexy, but it's the funeral sector in Quebec. I think it's a huge success because the funeral service were very expensive when it was just private. And when the funeral co-op start, the prices are just decreased. And I was working and talking with people in Sherbrooke from the funeral co-op, and they were saying that at the beginning, they were making people, we don't know which people, but they were destroying their funeral car and a lot of vandalism because it was a shock for the market, funeral market. So I think it's a great story to remember that we can change the market. And the other one, it's about, again, Concordia with the student assembly that vote together to put money to start logement étudiant. And the name is called Utile. And with the assembly of students, they make a real project. And now Utile is building as a student apartment in a couple of cities in Quebec. So I think it's another great story to remember that yes, it is possible to mobilize our community and our students around a good project.
Those fascinating about those examples. There are others, is that the market was away, then people got together, and the market was different. It's not just the community, the whole market changed because of the people. So
think of the CPE network in Quebec. I mean, every neighborhood has one, and I've used them. I had my 2 children go there. They came out of there speaking perfect French. They lost all their French because they put them in the English school system. So they have a beautiful accent, but they can't friggin' conjugate verbs. But each of those daycares, the Centre de la Petite Enfance, was much more than a daycare in its original idea. It was a place where the families in the neighborhood will be able to have their children. And then you've got an asset there. You've got a kitchen. Maybe you could have community dinners there. You know, some of them had juju techs, you know, lending the toys. The Centre de la Petite Enfance, rare, sometimes, not always, but sometimes have really flowered. And though, if you go and look at and see how what role they play, it's really astounding. And then and just while I'm on the topic of the economic impact of this network, there was a little war, I don't know if people remember, in the Le Devoir between the economists, the right and the left. And Fortin was arguing the economic impact of allowing women to go back to work, and after all the dust settles, how much in fact did it cost the government, and in fact it didn't cost them anything, they made money on it and so on. And then there was another guy came out from the right wing and said, no, you should go back and look at that debate, because while they disagreed on some of the math, both agreed, yes, indeed, it was a fantastic government investment. And so we need to also, you know, always look at these factors too when we do the social economy, and use those arguments. That's why you get, you know, the entire assembly in Quebec voting in favor of the loi cadre on the social economy, because it just makes sense. It makes sense to both sides of the spectrum, if you want, if there are only two.
Yeah, thank you for the inspiring example, Maud, how we can transform markets when we come together and create, you know, community enterprises that are rooted in, you know, collective assets and have a social mission to create better conditions for everyone. So I think we only have a couple minutes left, and thank you all for bestowing your knowledge upon us today. I'm not sure if you guys want to take a question from the audience, or if there is any questions. Sure, Lorraine, yeah.
Yeah, do you have advice for English speakers trying to crack the market?
Repeat the question for the.
So the question is, do you have any advice for English speakers trying to crack into the market?
Oh gosh, I have so many stories. Why don't we talk at the break? But I'll just say that I invited, you know, how many people here from Montreal? Okay, so everybody in Montreal knows the Co-op Maison Verte. So I invited the founder of the Co-op Maison Verte to my class to tell a story. And his message was, I'm paraphrasing, we set up the co-op so we could get grants. We wanted money. We wanted the money to come in to subsidize the business model. We just wanted the grants. They wanted more grants. In fact, the Co-op Maison Verte was never actually economically viable. It staggered along, and it kept getting money from the SEDEC in order to help it stagger along. And I think the problem with that message is that that's not how the social economy works. What's beautiful about the social economy is that the aspiration, it's not true all the time, but the aspiration for the core group and what we try to encourage them is you're trying to gain autonomy, financial autonomy in the marketplace from your project. And when the Anglophone communities understand that fundamental part, I think that they will be able to go in the right direction. Almost all the Anglophone groups I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot, never really understood that. So it's an entrepreneurial movement, trying to be, not always succeeding, but trying to be autonomous from state funds. Please take that to your heart and hold tight. There are other barriers. We'll talk at the break.
I would like to talk about Henry Mintzberg, that's an economist from McGill, and he says that ownership matters. So I think that it's not about just values, but about ownership, and I think it's an important factor to transform a market and everything.
I guess the last thing to say is maybe that in social economy, the point is to like organize yourself a little bit in spite of the market. So it's not really a question of like what room are people going to make for you in the market, but more being like, this market is not really working for us. We'll find something different that we'll build by ourselves. So if there's enough people like you that are asking that question, well, maybe it's just a question of like getting together, finding an alternate solution. Do you understand what I mean? That's a little bit the spirit behind the social economy is that too, is this market does not work for us the way that we want it to work for us. I've seen many things in the data that like kind of suggest that there's issues in the market that seem like it's not really working the way it should be working. So maybe there's like a real reason to get together to be like, hey, let's do it differently.
Yeah, creative problem solving. It's a great note to end it off on. Thank you all so much for your experiences and sharing your insights on these questions. I'd like to invite William Flock from the Secretariat. Oh, yours new switch. Okay. Then Matthew from CDRQ.
Good evening, everyone. It's really nice to be here with you this evening to celebrate the born and for the rise of RDN and this new initiative. So good evening, everyone. It is a great to have you here. I'm Mathieu Vigneault, directeur général de la Coopérative de développement régional du Québec. Our organization, the CDRQ, has a mandate to support and promote the creation and development of cooperative in all regions of Quebec through our 10 regional offices. We deploy our expertise through coaching service to existing cooperative as well as to promoter of new projects who wish to start their own social enterprise. We provide a wide range of services that are of importance to collective business on aspects of governance, finance, operation, management, marketing, and more recently, digital transition. La CDRQ, c'est plus d'une trentaine d'employés au service des coopératives et entreprises collectives en démarrage et en opération. Il est intéressant de noter que notre organisation est déjà active auprès des Québécois d'expression anglaise depuis quelques années de la province de Québec. En 2020-2021, la CDRQ a accompagné 8 coopératives en démarrage ou en activité dont les promoteurs, les membres ou les clients ont partiellement ou en totalité nécessité un accompagnement en anglais. Notre partenariat avec le secrétariat des relations avec les Québécois d'expression anglaise nous permettra de mieux servir les Québécois d'expression anglaise en rendant plus accessibles nos services, entre autres par la traduction de nos outils, dans l'objectif de mieux informer les entrepreneurs collectifs. Une version en langue anglaise de notre webinaire mensuel sur se lancer en affaires avec une coopérative a été développée et sera bientôt ouvert aux inscriptions. For those who are interested in the free webinar, you can write down your email contact in the form that my colleague Louis-Rodrigue Lozé will make available. So where did you put the form?
I'll probably put it over there.
Oh, thank you. And so you can let your business card too. So we'll do the job with that. This CDRQ initiative is led internally by Louis-Rodrigue, conseiller en développement coopératif, who is responsible for developing our services offered to Quebec English-speaking community. We are also pleased to collaborate with RDN Social Solidarity Economy English-speaking network, launched by RDN, who will work collaboratively with CDRQ in the expansion of our service offer. Through this partnership, the CDRQ will be able to support the integration of English-speaking community into Quebec's social solidarity economy ecosystem. So thank you for all, and long life to RDM.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be with you tonight, and along with Mathieu's comment, certainly I wish a long life for SEEnet and continued interaction, network building, because I think we heard from the previous speakers, that's a very important dimension of this work. Before I sort of give you a quick background of why our secretariat is involved with funding this kind of project, I thought I'd share just two small, more personal anecdotes. One was, I recall visiting the Magdalen Islands in about, I think, 1998 or 1999. Helena Burke was not yet in place, so maybe it explains why they were in the situation they were in. But they had a very small building, the Little Red Schoolhouse, and the offices of CAMI were in the more or less the attic, the old attic. And it was terrible working conditions, but the 2 or 3 people working there, and they'd have students in for summer projects, they were nonetheless thrilled to be working on behalf of the community. So you clearly had, you know, a sense of commitment and a sense of belonging to a community that you could build on. But then I had the opportunity to go back to the Magdalen Islands 2 or 3 years ago, and believe me, you know, what Helena presented us today is just a kind of a small slice of what comes out of Grandma's Bakery. You know, very impressive, the development. There's just no question. And for the vitality of the community in that region, it gives them, I think, hope for the future. So it's a wonderful model, and obviously we're very, very pleased to be involved in giving a small support to it. The other anecdote I wanted to share is that I've had experience. I've done a few things in my career. I worked in education. I worked in the not-for-profit sector. And I also co-owned with a partner a hotel in Eastern Townships. And we were involved at the time in a lot of community activities. So, you know, we would sponsor a music series and have in professional musicians. It's really wonderful. You know, there was not a lot of live professional music in the area. We did things like helped out with a carnival and an autumn run. And at one point, somebody came and says, you know, you guys do so much for the community. Are you a not-for-profit? And my answer was, well, not intentionally. So, you know, and I think I look back on it because, you know, I got very busy with my day job and wasn't able to be as involved with some of the things we're doing that are appreciated in the community. And what was interesting, even though we were theoretically a for-profit business, we had community volunteers who kept some of those activities going, the music series and so on. And out of that actually grew an organization that runs the summer festival, you know, but I look back and realize that if we had my partner and I, a better understanding and more potential support, we could have gone for that kind of model. Because we did have, I think both of us, a sense of a commitment, because this was an old building right in the center of town that needed work, you know, and we did that. We spent a lot of money on renovation. He was a contractor, so we had the services for free and everything. But anyway, just to say that to now bring it sort of closer to today, when the secretary was formed just, I guess 4 years ago now, almost exactly 4 years ago, one of the first things we did was to go out and hear from the community. And imagine it was, we had never heard of Zoom, or never knew that we experienced in COVID where we had to do this, but with actually Hugh Maynard's help, we arranged online consultations. We did 8 of them where we regrouped regions and so on. And we learned a lot, we heard a lot from participants in those sessions. And one of the things that came through loud and clear was that there was a kind of a devitalization in many of the regions. People were deeply concerned about the situation and the future of their communities. Employability was raised as a big challenge, an important challenge. But there was also this strong sense of kind of being out of the loop. Out of English speakers, and this is a phrase we started to use, they felt like a square peg in a round hole. They were not conversant enough with Quebec policies. They didn't know where to go. They didn't have the reflex even to go to Quebec departments to find assistance and support. So, you know, putting all of those things together, and then I will say that one of our first hires at the Secretariat was Louis-Pierre Lagaret, who's at the back of the room. And he had lots of local regional experience in working with regional development, but also through his work at Ministère de l'Économie was quite knowledgeable about the social economy programs of the government of Quebec, and had, in a sense, from the kind of the inside, the government side, a bit of the same reading, that the English-speaking community, while not completely absent, certainly wasn't present, to the extent that we would have imagined. So again, through our consultations in that first round in February of 2018, we interacted with Lorraine O'Donnell at Concordia, talking about some of the interesting work that was going on there. We heard about some of the needs and problems, challenges on a local level with people like Helena Burke. So we were pleased, even in the very few months of the existence of Secretariat, to support a short-term project on social economy with QSCREN, Concordia, and CAMI on the Magdalen Islands. But we knew that that was just like a little band-aid on one little situation. So when the idea started to percolate about developing, a bit of a center of expertise, and I give Lorraine O'Donnell and Concordia credit for getting that conversation going, it became clear that there was a need and potential. And then all of the interactions that we've seen with CDRQ, with other players, tells us that there's a pretty receptive audience, both on the sort of minority English-speaking side, but also in the Société Civile Francophone, as well as, we think, in government circles. So it seems, that the timing is really excellent for this kind of initiative. And I'm very excited to, hear the various presentations today, and feel like we're kind of at the dawn of a new era where English speakers will be less disconnected. We'll come to the table more. And I think it's a zone for sure that could be prioritized, but also the notion of heritage cultural tourism, and the idea that the community sector can, which is quite extensive in the English-speaking communities across Quebec. A little example: I remember the Brome County Historical Society in 1997 celebrated its centenary. So that's a historical society that's been going for 100 years. English speakers in some of the regions of Quebec do have, and lovingly curated and a real commitment to, in a sense, preserving their history, telling their story. But again, they're somewhat disconnected. And I could see that in that sector, there could be a number of social economy initiatives that might get them on a better footing and less kind of hand to mouth. Cami's example is a good one because we've seen some success there. Another I could think about is just around arts and culture and access to arts and culture, which can spin off from even heritage. That there's not a lot of venues and there's not a lot of activities. So anyway, I think that it's not for us to determine kind of what the priorities are, what should be done, but those are a few vulnerable populations and things that commemorate and keep alive the contribution of, dare I say it, historic Anglophones. But anyway, I'll stop here, but thanks very much, everybody, and good luck to this project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you to all the speakers for your contributions today and helping set the stage for the launch of SEEnet. So the Social Solidarity Economy English Speaking Network. So the vision of SEEnet is that the English-speaking communities of Quebec will be better positioned to benefit from meaningful employment and sustainable economic development. And I know this sounds a little lofty and vague, but don't worry, we do have a plan. And before we dive into it, let's make sure we're all talking about the same thing here. So the social solidarity economy, also shorthand, I'll be referring to it as SSE, refers to a wide range of economic activities and initiatives that are defined through their commitment to serving community and human needs through democratic participatory management. So it's comprised of social enterprises, cooperatives, nonprofits, education-based organizations, skill development enterprises, solidarity markets, so farmers market, fair trade initiatives, mutual aid projects, local development organizations, so such as RDN and cooperative federations. And then we have also community assets. So there's land trusts, housing cooperatives, childcare centers, and also social financing. So credit unions, community bonds, and other grants and foundations. So Quebec is well known as the leader and really a global hotspot for the social solidarity economy. And this rich legacy of developing cooperatives, nonprofits, and federations, credit unions has made Quebec into one of the most affordable, creative, and business-friendly provinces in Canada. And it's estimated by the Chantier that there's over 11,000 collective enterprises with 13 million members, which equals $47.8 billion in annual revenues turned over within Quebec. And despite all of this, the community economic development taking place throughout Quebec, the English-speaking communities have largely been excluded and left behind. So this is due to many reasons, such as language barriers from support networks and preconceived cooperative enterprise biases. So it's estimated that 3 out of 4 Anglophones that are interested in cooperative or in collective entrepreneurship end up choosing the nonprofit model over the over a cooperative model. And if they had, at the end of the day, this kind of dilutes the buy-in from a lot of Anglos because and into the movement in general, because if they had known perhaps that the workers' cooperative model could be for profit, then they would be more likely to take part in it. So we see this dynamic play out in the registration of enterprises, where only a handful of cooperatives even have an English name option registered in the Registre d'entreprise. So why is this important? Well, the inclusion of English-speaking communities within Quebec's social solidarity economy strengthens the movement as a whole, as well as benefiting those communities. And through incubating social enterprises that are rooted in community needs and not tied solely to a profit motive, SEEnet is integrating English-speaking Quebecers into their wider communities that are predominantly Francophone. So these social enterprises are then also creating sustainable socioeconomic development opportunities for these communities that otherwise would not exist, as we saw with Cami. So the beauty of the social enterprise model is they're able to tap into social financing and community assets to create things that the free market would otherwise deem unfeasible or not worthwhile. And so when we're talking about creating jobs, we often think about it in qualitative terms. And so for example, in Alberta, the expansion of the oil sands could be justified by saying it would create X amount of new jobs. But what it fails to consider is the quality of this work. So long hours, disconnection from loved ones, substance abuse issues. It's an undesirable industry for both humans and the planet. And what SEEnet aims to do is to give people the means to pursue their passions and subsequently create meaningful employment opportunities rather than just a paycheck. So through democratic governance and collective ownership of assets, they're also more likely to have positive externalities, such as the prioritization of sustainable practices. So the social solidarity economy is rooted in values of equity, community, autonomy, democracy, and inclusion. So it follows then that the alignment of these values to the inclusion of English-speaking communities into the movement will strengthen the proliferation of Quebec's social and solidarity economy rather than detract from it. In fact, I've heard from people in the Chantier that a lot of English-speaking countries and regions have wanted to get more engaged with Quebec's SSE, but have not had the basis of inclusion due to language barriers. So SEEnet is proud to be advocating for and with Quebec to build a more inclusive and all-embracing movement. So tangibly, what this means is SEEnet will be promoting entrepreneurial approaches. I need some water. And facilitating the active participation of the English-speaking communities of Quebec in the SSE. So this will be accomplished by mobilizing knowledge, building capacity, and leveraging resources. And this should not be taken lightly, as it's a real opportunity to siphon off the entrepreneurial spirit of English-speaking communities and transform those enterprises that would otherwise be capitalistic in nature into, and providing them the means to transform those into those that are grounded into concern for community and governed democratically. So data from Human Resources and Social Development Canada back in 2006 found that Anglophones are 2% more likely to be self-employed than their Francophone counterparts. So this means 1 in 8 Anglos compared to 1 in 10 Francophones are self-employed. And this is associated to many cultural reasons, such as Anglos having difficulty finding work. But what this means for us and for SEEnet is that we have a real opportunity to tap into this trend to educate, inform, inspire, and support these small business owners and entrepreneurs to create collective enterprises that benefit everyone. The other aspect of SEEnet's mission is to strengthen connections and develop partnerships to integrate the English-speaking communities into the already quite impressive SSE support network of Quebec. So what SEEnet will be offering in the immediate term is monthly webinars in collaboration with partners such as SEES and CDRQ. So we'll be providing entry-level, reoccurring introductory educational opportunities for Anglophones to learn about the fundamentals of the SSE, collective entrepreneurship, and other special topics. We'll also be launching our consultation program, which means we'll be providing support to project leaders and new social enterprises throughout their ideation and pre-startup developmental phases, again, in collaboration with our partners on the ground, such as SEES and CDRQ. We'll be compiling a directory of English-speaking consultants, mentors, and coaches to connect these projects to technical expertise and sector-specific support. So we've been bestowed with a very modest goal with our funding contract with Secretariat to support at least 10 projects through this pre-startup phase by March 2023. And considering we're already in conversation with over half a dozen projects, I expect that we're going to blow past this goal together as a network. So another slightly less glamorous component of SEEnet's service offering is the resource directory. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel and recreate documents that have already been made by the amazing people, you know, PMR, Réseau, CDRQ, and beyond. So our role here is to have an updated inventory of all the resources, keep track of what's been translated and what hasn't, and use this to point people in the right direction, as well as identify resources that are in demand and either translate them or collaboratively create them together. So lastly, and perhaps most importantly for most of you tonight, SEEnet is aiming to build a network through cultivating a community of practice for organizers, community leaders, entrepreneurs to come together, share their experiences, and connect through events, educational opportunities, as well as online activities such as webinars, newsletters, and social media. So at the heart of SEEnet is its education-based objectives. And this involves increasing interaction with English-speaking communities to build awareness around the benefits of the social solidarity economy within Quebec. And this awareness component is really the first step to converting traditional entrepreneurs or even regular working class folks into the movement. We call this the top of the funnel. Right. So secondly, SEEnet aims to provide advance the accessibility to the technical, entry-level education opportunities. To improve general knowledge and engage people further until they get to the point where they're ready to have accessibility to technical expertise, and thereby allowing them to develop their entrepreneurial capacities and become more meaningfully engaged in Quebec's SSE. So personally, I've been waiting a long time to see a project like this manifest, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited to be here speaking with all of you today. So after moving to Quebec 6 years ago, I was enamored by Quebec's vibrant culture and solidarity values. I was taking the CED program at Concordia, and for my internship, I joined up with some workers at a cafe to transform it into a solidarity cooperative donut shop. My team and I were very fortunate to have the opportunity to be supported by some of the amazing people at PMR and Réseau, but at the time, none of the consultations, resources, or workshops that I had participated in were in English, with the exception of Jason. So as a newcomer to Quebec, I was enrolled in French classes and trying my best to integrate, but I was still often excluded from the support networks that otherwise could have benefited our project. And I don't think my experience is particularly unique, which is why I'm so proud to be here today building solutions with you all together. So a network is only as strong as the connections within it. And broadly speaking, the goal is to expand English-speaking communities' presence at the organizational ecosystem level of Quebec's SSE. So this looks like SEEnet cultivating purposeful interactions with English-speaking community organizations, enterprises, and individuals to build relationships and awareness around the benefits of their participation. So this involves creating networks of solidarity for English-speaking organizations to provide support, mobilize resources, and advance participation in a meaningful way. So lastly, also SEEnet aims to formalize this type of participation at the provincial level of Quebec to better represent their needs and inclusions in the overall movement. So we're very fortunate to already have established a handful of partners. So we have, of course, the Regional Development Network, who acts as our fiduciary body and supports SEEnet physically, administratively, and emotionally. And of course, we also have the Secretariat, who supports SEEnet financially and it's through their generous support that we've been given this amazing mandate. On the education and resource side of things, we have CDRQ, who is generously translating all of their resources into English and is also hired bilingual consultants to be a part of the consultation program. And we have SEES, which is a fairly new organization out of Concordia University, which will be collaborating with SEEnet to provide grassroots engagement as well as support on incubation and education services. And lastly, of course, we have QuestGrant, who you heard from earlier. And it's from their initiative that the Secretariat first became involved in promoting the social solidarity economy in English-speaking communities. And for this, we are very grateful for QuestGrant's contributions. So over the last 6 months, we've been talking to numerous other organizations working within the SSE ecosystem. Many of you are here tonight as well. And we're always looking for new ways to collaborate and connect. So now with the launch of SEEnet and your support, the goal is that no one is going to be left behind in Quebec's social and solidarity economy. Our website is officially live. I encourage you all to check it out. It's see-net.ca. We'll be posting regularly about upcoming events and workshops, things that are happening within the movement. If you'd like to join the network, either as a support organization or a collaborative partner, please come speak to me or Hugh or Kathy. And yeah, we would love to talk to you about how we can work together and support each other. So also, if you're interested in staying up to date and everything we're doing here, yeah, sign up for our newsletter. It's on our website. And also, we intend on sharing like regional community news, as well as our own content. So if you'd like us to share anything on behalf of your organizations, please reach out to us. And yeah, thank you all for coming here tonight. We have some live jazz. You'll have drink tickets in your thing here. And I look forward to connecting with all of you. Some closing remarks from here.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that very dynamic presentation, Olivia. I'm not sure what you're doing in that picture, but just popped out. Just a personal comment. I'd like to thank Olivia so much for her involvement in this project. She's brought a wealth of experience and dynamic, youthful dynamic passion into the whole enterprise. And I think we would have perhaps been a little more conservative in our approach if it wasn't for Olivia. So it's quite refreshing after many, many years of being an adult to have somebody come in and kick some ass. Speaking of kicking ass, I didn't know that was a technical term in the social economy, but apparently it is. So I thought maybe we could have our new slogan for SEEnet would be join SEEnet and kick some ass in the social economy. Hey,
No.
no? Well, maybe we could try another one and say, why be a square peg when you can join SEEnet? Any others? No. So thank you very much for participating. I think all the presentations and the contributions clearly indicate that there's a need in the English-speaking community in many aspects. Lorraine covered that territory with which we can be involved in the social economy in a very beneficial way for the community. And I think the CAMI experience shows that there are opportunities, that if a small community out in the middle of the Gulf of the St. Lawrence with 547 people can put together a program and make it the success that it not only has been, but is going to be when you look at the scale of the projects that have come about. And they couldn't have happened unless they were in a collective way. And so I think it really does point in the right direction. And Bill's going to fall off his chair. I'm not going to tell it now, Bill, but you have to buy me a drink to tell you later. But one of the challenges for the English-speaking community is that they have to learn how to be belted Galloways instead of Herefords. And Bill can tell you this story. It's too complicated to tell you up here now. You'll have to come and have a drink and I can tell you all about it. But I think the CAMI experience shows how the Herefords are learning to be belted Galloways. And I'll leave that mystery with you and you can find out, but it's all about the collective approach, which the English-speaking community we've been more individualistic in our culture and the ways that we work. And I hope that this effort through SEEnet can finally bring some benefits and some change to that approach, because the messages were delivered were quite clear that people count, and that the social economy doesn't go anywhere without good people being involved. And so I think that's an indication, it's a raison d'etre for mobilizing. Also, the fact that we talk a lot about partnerships because that's what we're supposed to do. But quite clearly, SEEnet is not going to be able to progress, is not going to be able to take its place within the social economy ecosystem without being partners. And Olivia ran through that in some details. And lastly, I like Jason's emphasis on networks. It is the way to go, and it's reaching out into the communities and building a basis on which we can work forward. So thank you very much once again. We're going to open up the doors and come over and join me in kicking some ass for the social economy. Thank you.